Hey everyone, I know it's kind of been a while, but sometimes whenever I pull out a CD or listen to, you know, an album you haven't heard in such a long, or at least in such a long, extensive time, and sometimes you just want to pull out something that's heavy, something that's that's so kick-ass. Just makes you just want to really, really get into the music, man. And of course, I'm talking about one of those great hard bands. I definitely gotta say, man. This band here and Black Sabbath were definitely the pioneers of heavy metal. And of course, I'm talking about Deep Purple. And of course, this was their Mark I period, which they were. I wouldn't say they weren't really as. Of course, when they brought in Ian Gillan, that really changed the whole dynamic of that band, of course. But this was during their bluesy and kind of psychedelic, blues rock, And don't get me wrong, I really like this first period here where you have Rod Evans, and he wasn't really in the band for that long, and then he was with that band Captain Beyond, I think, with the guy that later did that, that song, What You Won't Do for Love, Bobby Caldwell. So, I like the early Deep Purple, but of course, nothing ever touches, however, I think definitely the core years of Deep Purple. Now, I do very much love, of course, the magnificent Ian Gillan and his vocals and Ritchie Blackmore. That pairing of those two there and John Lord, that whole band, that early Mark II of the period, they call it, was absolutely fan-damn-tastic. And I absolutely love the first one that they did with Ian Gillan in rock, You got that first track, Speed King. You know what I mean? What a kick-ass riff. Ritchie Blackmore was like one of those, he was just like Jimmy Page. He came up with some of the greatest riffs, and Speed King is definitely one of them. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to mention Roger Glover. What a great player he was, obviously, And of course you got Child in Time, that 10-minute great epic, right? That sounds a little bit like Bach in a way, because I think they're all the song is kind of like in separate, individual parts. It's not just, the complexity and the song itself changes, when it gets to that part, the very, it gets into this very, almost like, whoa, what is going on, the dun, da 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 dun, da 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 dun, just kick-ass stuff. Right? That was definitely one of their, I think for sure, definitely one of their concert staples back then, Child in Time. And of course, Into the Fire with another kick-ass riff. Just my goodness, man. And I like the back cover with all the band members there. And I kind of like, now obviously, I do like Fireball a little bit, Wasn't kind of on the level as In Rock. But of course, they came out with this album. That was a big blockbuster album. Of course, for sure, everybody knew who the hell freaking Deep Purple was. Everybody knew, of course, Hush. Maybe some people knew about, the first two albums by Deep Purple. This really put them on the map with Smoke on the Water. And Highway Star. And what was the other one on here? Space Truckin'. That was some great stuff, And of course, it all wraps up in a bow before, before kind of Ian Gillan left the band, was, the Made in Japan. Really, really great live album. Now, of course, it has Smoke on the Water and Highway Star. And I think this was 72, yeah. Yeah, live in Tokyo. Definitely love that shot there, man. Man, what a great, and even a great live band too. They were just such, they were definitely ahead of the damn curve. That's for damn sure. Now they did also have one more album from him, or from Ian Gillan, to wrap up the Mark II period, and that was Who Do You Think We Are? But man, I think my favorite, my goodness for sure, is Live in Japan for the Phase 2, however, and Mark II. The Ian Gillan, these are my two favorite right here. In Rock, the first one with Ian Gillan, and then of course the live album. Now, of course, Ian Gillan was a little bit fed up with the band, so he left, and they brought in, two great powerhouses, man, two great, but of course, the singer that ended up joining for the Mark III period, he did that band Whitesnake, and, well, I'm not going to get into that. But of course, this was definitely the era, man, where they just took it to another level. I mean, with Ian Gillan, they really were like pushing boundaries. They were just really being just such a great, heavy, hard rocking band, just like Black Sabbath. But man, what a period of time when David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes joined the band in early '74. The sky is red. I don't understand. She'll make you burn with the wave of a hand. Is that how the lyrics go? Yeah, man. She'll make you burn. David Coverdale's vocals. Man, this is when they were really upping the game, man. And this was a time too where they were thinking, well, let's go ahead and trade vocalists, because Glenn Hughes would sing sometimes. He would sing lead, and that would be definitely for sure, at least a couple of albums later or whatever. But yeah, Burn, the opening track, God, man, those are just some explosive lyrics. I mean, she'll make you burn with the wave of her hand. Like, damn, that is so good. I also like Sail Away. It's kind of a little bit of a groove, but it gets right kicking in. It's like kind of one of those slow burn songs. Yeah, and Roger Glover, yeah, which Glenn Hughes replaced Roger Glover, I also like Mistreated. That was kind of a good one, too. Now, of course, they did have, Stormbinger, which, it's still kind of a good album. And then, now, of course, Ritchie Blackmore was fed up with the band. He couldn't really stand the change that was going on, because then they wanted to get into more of a fusion-y funk sound, so they brought in a guy that was in the James Gang, what's his name, Tommy Bolin, and they did Come Taste the Band, which, I did a video on this. I kind of thought it was, I respect it and everything. It's still a great album. It's still a pretty good album, but, And then, of course, the sequel that ended the Phase 2, before David Coverdale and Glenn joined in. Of course, they ended off in '76 with Made in Europe, with, of course, all the songs coming from Burn, Stormbinger, and I think Come Taste the Band. No, I think it's just Burn and Stormbinger. Yes, and this is definitely another great kick-ass live album. David Coverdale, like I said, he reminds me a lot of like Sammy Hagar. Even Glenn Hughes has a little bit of like that, a little bit of that Edgar Winter kind of, So I really love Deep Purple. I mean, what I'm saying here now, really great stuff. And yeah, love Deep Purple. And I also like this band too as well. Classic rock is just, what I mean? It could be kind of stupid as Get Out, as all Get Out, because you hear, just like with Deep Purple, you hear that song all the freaking time. And even with this band too, you hear Light My Fire, and you're like, I don't know if I want to hear that again, but I absolutely love. And I remember back when I was like in 8th grade or whatever, my dad had the greatest hits on a CD. It had the picture of Jim Morrison, kind of shirtless, whatever. And I loved it right from the get-go. I mean, I liked Light My Fire, and I liked, of course, the hits or whatever. And I think a little bit later on, late in my teens, I really, really got into like the studio albums. My dad had the first album on CD and the greatest hits. So I believe it was in 2019 I bought the 1999, the complete recordings box set, and I just absolutely loved everything. I mean, just like the sound of it, the quality is fantastic. And I'm talking about The Doors. Oh yeah, their first one. Yeah, this is like iconic. I mean, the first one's absolutely like boom, 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 you know. And I remember like maybe watching an interview or something like that with Ray Manzarek, where he was talking about how like it just like the whole first album just felt so raw, and it felt so, they were like kind of warming up to being, they were kind of working the kinks, kind of, and that's how most debuts kind of are, But man, right from the get-go, with Paul Rothchild, I mean, he was a really good damn producer. But then when they did L.A. Woman, the last album with Jim Morrison, he didn't care for their sound that they were trying to do or whatever, But yeah, I mean, absolutely freaking-tastic. Of course, early 1967, and Light My Fire, #1 song. I mean, let me list off the freaking. I'm gonna with all the songs here. Break On Through, Soul Kitchen. I always liked Soul Kitchen. That was always kind of a good song. And the Crystal Ship. Oh my goodness, I love that. It's kind of a bit slow, a little bit mysterious, kind of. And I love 20th Century Fox. She's a 20th Century Fox. Jim Morrison's kind of swagger, He was kind of one of those guys. He did not pull any punches, man. Like he did not. I mean, we all know what he did, exposing himself and then this and that or whatever. But he had the confidence to really be like, I'm not going to throw any punches here, And of course, Alabama song, it has a cabaret, whatever. And Like My Fire, Backdoor Man, which is, the old Willie Dixon song, Oh yeah, I Looked at You, and some of the other ones are good too. And End of the Night, Take It as It Comes. I like that song pretty okay. And then The End. But yeah, I mean, just like solid songs and solid debut. I love the first album from them. Now I do actually kind of like maybe the second one, perhaps a little bit more than the first one. But the first two are just absolutely just nothing can ever just ever change my opinion on the first two Doors album. And they came out with Strange Days from kind of like the late part of '67. And you got Strange Days, which kind of had a little bit of the Moog synthesizer, I think, something like that, right? They kind of, not invented, but, they were kind of one of the first of few bands that included a Moog synthesizer in a song, whatever. Oh yeah, You're a Lost Little Girl. I like that one. That one's good. And I like Love Me Two Times. That's kind of a little bit of a cheesy song. Oh yeah, Moonlight Drive. God, that's like one of those great like Doors songs you never want to skip, right? I mean, just like one of those great songs. People Are Strange, My Eyes Have Seen You. I like that one too. And of course, they always have to have their epic ending to the album, whatever, just like the first one with the end. And they do When the Music's Over. Now I also like, Waiting for the Sun. I like that one. And also like, The Soft Parade, where they kind of went a little bit, they kind of sold themselves a little bit and they went a little bit more popular, But that album, I still love that album. And Morrison Hotel. And of course their last one, L.A. Woman. But man, what the hell did they do, man? Why did Robbie Krieger, why did Ray Manzarek and Densmore keep on going after Morrison's passing? It's like they had, what was that, Other Voices and Full Circle that were just absolutely just complete disasters of their studio albums, post Morrison death. And, I did also hear a little bit of, which came a little bit later on in the 70s, kind of came towards the end of the 70s, was the American Prayer album, which had that, what was that, Ghost, I think? It was like one of their kind of songs that was on the radio or whatever. It was kind of like a hit on the radio. It was called Ghost. And I thought that was kind of okay. It was quite interesting. They kind of took a lot of the spoken word poetry that Morrison did before his death or whatever. But man, The Doors is when you have everybody. It's not just, the sum of its parts or whatever. It's everybody. And I think that's what makes the freaking Doors. And when you have Jim Morrison, you have everybody else, And I felt like, the other voices and the full circle in American Prayer, well, at least with American Prayer, it was kind of a little bit Jim Morrison, but, he was gone. He was dead long after when that album came out. But yeah, I love both The Doors and I love Deep Purple. Great stuff. Okay, folks, take care. Bye-bye.